I haven't done this since January, and I apologize. I'm very busy. What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel and to another video. Today we are resuming my ships tier list series. It's been a few months since I've done this. I am well aware. I apologize. I have made it very clear, I thought, that I've been very busy and I've had to kind of focus in on mostly just Medalist over the past few months because that was literally all I had time to record over the last few months, and that was pretty important to me, so apologies, but we're back. And today I'm really excited because this is a character that I have talked about with a ship in the past, but it's been quite a while, I think, since I've really talked about her, and it is Kanao. So many of you got this right in the poll, so good job. I originally started by going just through my list of favorite characters, and then I went back and forth on if I wanted to switch to just Hashira, switch to just Kamaboko Squad, and it's kind of turned into I'm just doing whatever character I feel like doing. But one of the other reasons why I choose the characters that I choose is I try and do characters where it's like, it's been a minute since I've done one where I've talked heavily about certain ships within that character. Because we're getting to the point where pretty much all of these are going to have repeat information at this point. So I promise you, I'm not ignoring any of the characters. This is just the way my brain is working. And of course, it has been a while since I've done one of these. But from here on out, I'm actually adding something to my memberships where I will be adding members only polls where you will get to decide which character I do next. This feature will be added to both tiers, so if you are interested in joining my membership, you can just click the join button below and you can join at Kamaboko or Hashira and get access to these polls, amongst other fun perks. And stay tuned for more members only perks coming your way. Kanao doesn't get a whole lot of love from this fandom. I think she will after the second movie, hopefully, but she's actually in my top 10 favorite characters. I really love her a lot, so I'm really excited to dive into this, but before we do, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. But with that, let's get into it. So this video might actually be pretty quick because I've been using this same tier list that just has like all of the ships that someone could think of, whether they're normal or not. And I went through and I added all the ones with Kanao to the top, and it doesn't even take up a full row like most of the other characters. I will say that there's not any particularly weird ships, which is kind of nice actually. I feel like because there's less ships with her, I'll be able to talk through them a little bit more, and there won't be any that just go automatically into ew. So let's go. We're starting with Tanjiro and Kanao. I'm not gonna lie, it does feel a little bit like one of those ships where they're in the same age bracket, so it just exists because of that. I don't recall them ever actually interacting with each other at all. I mean, Tanjiro, for the record, is not in the show that much. He makes an appearance at the beginning of Entertainment District, and then have we seen him at all since then? I don't think so. He is going to appear in the next two movies, but it's going to be very brief. So he's not like a huge player in the show, while Kanao, while she's not that huge of a player in the beginning, like she kind of is around a lot, but not really like at the missions or anything like that, she is going to become like a much bigger player in these next two movies. That being said, I do think it's cute. I could see it working, but I'm gonna put it in B just because I feel like it simply exists because they're in the same age bracket. It's definitely a fan fiction type ship. I don't even know if there's any fan fiction around it. So how old is Tanjiro? Is his age even ever like a canon thing? I don't think so. And his age is a little bit confusing to me because the way they animate it in the Mugen Train arc and the Entertainment District arc, when we meet both Kyojuro and Tanjiro, Tanjiro seems so much younger than Kyojuro. Kyojuro is 20 years old, that is canon. Tanjiro seems like the way he looks, like his height, the features, like he looks like he's maybe 10, but they also show flashbacks where Kyojuro is clearly very young and Senjuro is a baby. So it looks like they're maybe about 5 years apart is what I would assume from that. So Senjuro is, I guess, around 15, which is about the same age as most everyone in the Kamaboko squad. The median age is kind of 15. I think Kanao is 16, Genya is 16, Zenitsu is 16, and then Tanjiro is 15, Inosuke is 15. So like they're all in that same age range. I just think, and I was thinking about this is a random tangent, but y'all watch me for these kinds of tangents, so we'll go into it. I might actually make a video on this because there is some like art style choices in these flashbacks. I was thinking about this with the flashback of Tanjiro and his dad with like the bear and everything, is that Tanjiro looks exceptionally younger in that flashback, while the rest of the Kamado family in that flashback looked around the same age. So I think whether it's an art mistake or it's just they're trying to show that these boys are like very recently having a huge growth spurt or something that we just skipped over the huge growth spurt. Anyway, that being said, I'm gonna lock in on Senjuro being around 15 years old. Okay, moving on. So Kanao and Nezuko. So fun fact, in one of my videos, my short form videos where I do those like going until I get a character I would ship with, or going until I get a ship I like better than, like everyone always loves those videos because shipping always gets a lot of views, even though I feel like I make so many shipping videos when I'm also someone who, there's like one ship in this show that I genuinely care about. The rest I'm just like, I have a lot of opinions on, but I also don't care that much because Demon Slayer to me is so much more about the platonic relationships. Like it really focuses in on siblings and that sort of thing. And I think that's one of its strengths. So the whole romance aspect of it is so funny to me because it's so not important to the story. Anyway, I am like super tangent-y today. So I made one of those videos about, you know, going until I get a ship I like better. And it was Kanao and Nezuko. And the first thing out of my mouth was wrong Kamado. And everyone was like, huh? Which I'll explain in a minute later on in this video. But I still really like it. I think it's a really adorable ship. I just prefer her with the other Kamado, which again, I'm not gonna get into it because we'll talk about it in a minute. But it is still really cute. I don't really have anything against it. The only problem, once again, and I might be saying this a lot, because Kanao just doesn't have a ton of screen time, especially, well, she just doesn't have a ton of screen time in general. And it's one of my biggest gripes with the story is like her and Mitsuri and a lot of the female characters just definitely not having as much screen time as the boys. It's very obvious. Do I like this better than her and Senjuro? I think so. So we're gonna put it in A just because I feel like there's a little bit more there. You know, there's a little bit more material to build something off of. Like, obviously we don't get screen time of this, but like the idea of Tanjiro being in a coma for 2 months after Entertainment District, someone had to be watching over Nezuko because Tanjiro couldn't do that. So I like to think like Kanao kind of helping out with that a lot. And while I have a lot of like headcanons around the subject of what happened during those 2 months, and a lot of them have to do with Kanao taking care of Tanjiro, I do think that she would have taken care of Nezuko along with everyone else, of course, that is not incapacitated. I like that idea, so I think there's just a little bit more to go off of in this ship, genuinely, and it is like, it's a cute idea. Kanao and Genya. So, once again, is there any time outside of final selection at the very beginning, because they were in the same final selection, that we see them like in a scene together? I don't think so, but I randomly really like it. So this one feels, it's similar to Senjuro and Kanao because it does kind of seem to me a little bit more like thrown together because they're in the same age bracket. But I do like this one better simply because I have more feelings about Genya than I do about Senjuro. So when it comes to shipping, and I explain this to a lot of people when I say I ship Sanagiu, which I think I've made ship videos for both of those characters, so it's pretty, like, I'm not going to be talking about it in any other videos. The reason I ship Sanagiu is more because I like both of those characters, so I would care more about a ship between the two of them than their unnamed wives, because I don't care about their unnamed wives. That, yes, I understand that it's canon that they had kids because they had descendants in that final chapter, but I don't feel like caring about that. So if I'm gonna ship them with someone, it's gonna be with someone else that I care about. The same goes for Kanao and Genya. I love Sanjuro. I just don't like care that much. Like, he's adorable. Like, I'll pat you on the head. Like, but with Genya, I actually really care about Genya. Genya is also in my top 10 favorite characters, and he's grown a lot on me. We're not going to talk about what's going to happen in the second movie, though. And I have spoken very often about my struggles with shipping the younger characters that don't live to see the end of the story, like Muichiro, like Genya, because they're so young. And, you know, a lot of 15, 16-year-olds date. Like, that's very normal. A lot of them feel romantic love. But in the world that they live in, with the job that they have, when it comes to shipping characters that are that young, my brain has to kind of force itself into, okay, post the end of the story, because like they grow up, they become adults, like it makes a little bit more sense in my brain. But with Kanao and Genya, obviously that can't happen because Genya does not live. So that being said, I feel like I have to put it in B based off of what I've talked about, but my heart is telling me to put it in A because I do genuinely like it as well. Like, it's so strange to me. It's so strange to me. I have all of these like negative things about it, but my heart is also just like, I do really like this ship because I love both characters, and I do think like in an alternate reality where Genya lived like he deserved, like it fits into this realm of I like it. So I have to put it in A because I do like it. Like, my heart is just telling me put it in A because B doesn't feel right. Kanao and Inosuke, I don't really like this as a ship. I'm not gonna lie. They are so, and people always hate it when people are like, they're so sibling coded. I'm not saying that to make it a problem. I'm not saying that to try and tell other people that they can't ship it because it's wrong. I'm saying that as in my brain, this is a very heavy sibling-coded relationship to me, but at the same time, I do understand why people ship it because this is like, these two actually get to fight together. They actually get to defeat a demon together, a demon that has a lot of emotional ties to both of them. And I'm not gonna lie, their fight with Doma, I'm really looking forward to seeing it animated because it's one of my favorites. I mean, honestly, all of the ones that, starting with like Akaza versus Tanjiro and Gyu, everything from here on out is like S tier to me. So I love all of them, but I do love their dynamic, and I understand why people ship this one. To me, when I read that fight in the manga, it was heavily sibling chemistry, not romantic chemistry. So again, I understand why people ship it. I can see why people read that, and I think that's up to interpretation, but I'm gonna put it in B. I do like the dynamics of like quiet, one person in it is quiet, one person in it is a yapper, but in the case of Tanjiro and Inosuke, I feel like it's too different, where in the world of this next ship we're about to talk about, it's perfect. Because I think a lot of people always use the whole like opposites attract as a way to say like, oh, this person that is like this and this person that is completely opposite of them would work well together. When I disagree, you know, when you think about yin and yang, or yin and yang, I think is the proper way of pronouncing it, it's not that it's completely opposite. If you notice with that symbol, there's in the black, a little bit of white. In the white, a little bit of black. Because there has to be some similarities. I think Kanao and Inosuke are just too opposite. So heavy, heavy sibling relationship to me. Next, which we've already done this. We are adding, and what color should we go with today? We're gonna make it purple. So we have OTP. My OTP, of course, is Tanjiro and Kanao. I talked about this. It's actually been a while since I've talked about this ship because Tanjiro was the first character ship video I made, which was back in, I think, November, which is crazy that it's been, how has it been like 5 months since November? Time is crazy. I don't understand how time can fly as quickly as it can. Man, I am really yapping in this one for sure. So Tanjiro and Kanao is my favorite ship in Demon Slayer. It's probably the only ship that I genuinely, truly care about. I read fan fiction about it. I write fan fiction about it. And I have to say, it is one of those ships that when people don't have that many feelings about it, I understand. The main reason why it's my favorite ship is, of course, because Tanjiro is my favorite character. So any ship that has to do with him, I'm going to care a little bit more about because he's the character that I have the most feelings about. So when it comes to romantic relationships with him, of course, I also have the most thoughts about his ships. So that being said, I do really like their dynamic. So first things first, since I just talked about like the opposites thing, quiet yapper, right? But at the same time, both of them are very sensitive to people's emotions. Both of them know when to, like Tanjiro knows when to be quiet. Tanjiro respects the fact that she's quiet, but also pushes against it to try and like change her mind. And I think he does it in a way that is not like crossing a boundary. He does it in a way that just is helping her in ways that she can't really say. So one of the things I really like about this ship is that while it's not in your face the entire time, there are little tiny tidbits throughout the story that kind of show this like back and forth between the two of them, starting all the way back in season 1. Of course, when we had that coin toss scene, he is so pure of heart that he is like, why don't you just listen to your heart? Why don't you just try it? But it's not like in a way that is just so forceful. Like I think he does it in a way where it's like he obviously understands like the trauma that she's experienced without asking. He's sensitive to that while still being like, but we need a, like, why don't you try it? That sort of thing. I also like that we get her flashback, and right as Kanai, her older sister, is telling her like, someday you're going to meet a boy and your heart will open up to him, we go to present day, and the first person we hear is Tanjiro. I think that that's like a clear foreshadowing thing. Whether you like that Kanai said like it has to be a boy or not, like we could get into that, but there's clear foreshadowing in that moment that I think people will try and argue it's not, because it's not like her attention goes directly to him. They made it very obvious that her attention was on him. Even though we hear his voice and then it shows all three of the Kamaboko squad, it's very clear that like her mind goes straight to Tanjiro. And then of course, like after Entertainment District, she clearly like is starting to talk more and has a lot of emotions towards him. And then, you know, Hashira training, this development from her is set up once he starts to talk to her. And then of course we get to the final battle, and she is the one who is willing to run at him without a weapon, just with the medicine, when I think like a lot of other people, it's not that they weren't willing to put their lives on the line to try and like bring him back or save him or whatever, because he's a demon at this point, right? I think that the fact that she was the one who was successful is not only a great character moment for her, but it is just like they saved each other, right? If Tanjiro hadn't done what he had done throughout the story, which was very small, like it wasn't like he was just constantly on her about talking, like he mentioned it once and then she was able to kind of start feeling like she listened to her heart. If he had not done that all the way back in season 1, she wouldn't have been able to do what she did in that final battle. She would have still been flipping the coin. What if she had to flip the coin and then it came up like, okay, don't do it, like, too bad. He's gonna just become a like raging animal and kill everyone because she had to flip her coin, right? He was the catalyst of that development, which then led to her being able to save him. I just like the dynamic, and then I like thinking about them post-war. I think their love would be just a very wholesome love. You know, like they have matching blind eyes, right? Like Tanjiro is blind in his right eye, Kanao is blind in her left eye. Like it just works. It's just cute. I don't know. Like there's so much other things I could say about it, but I think that it's one of the few ships that genuinely had small moments. They weren't in your face. Like if you blink, you missed it. And I always say that Demon Slayer is one of those shows where you can get enjoyment out of it no matter what. It's not like one of those shows that adds so much nuance that you have to pay attention super deep, lock in every time you watch it. You can find nuance in the show though. There is nuance there if you look for it. And I think Tanjiro and Kanao as a ship is one of those ships where it's like, you can watch the entire show and not ship it and not really care, and that's fine. But if you look for it, it is there. And I really like that about them. So they are my favorite ship. I feel like I'm not really doing justice talking about it, but I've talked about it in the past. I'm talking about it now. I'll probably make a whole video dedicated to them at some point, which I think I already have, actually. I think I have, but I want to do like a full like blown video essay about it and why I like it so much. Because I feel like a lot of people don't really care. Like when it comes to fan fiction, there's so many other ships that get so much more fan fiction. And I think that they deserve a little bit more love. So they're my one true pairing. I could go on, but I will leave it at that. So the next ship we have here is Kanao and Ume. I'm not gonna lie. I understand why people ship it, and it's simply because like this is Daki's human form, who of course she got turned into a demon when she was 13. So I also kind of live in the realm of when I consider ships with her and that sort of thing, I always just like more think of her as a 13-year-old than anything else, even though she's like hundreds of years old. I'm putting this in C just because, and I've talked about this before, most demon X human, and again, I will remind you, Nezuko is different. In my brain, she is human. But I mean like human X demon who actively fought against the demon slayers, I'm not the biggest fan of. It's just not my cup of tea. That's just a preference. I know a lot of people who like those ships. It's fine. You can ship it if you like. It's just not my cup of tea. I think that this is another one that's just like, they put it together because it's in the same age bracket, but at the same time, there's nothing about it that I really like. And I think there might be some like reason for it in Kimetsu Academy. I haven't read all of that, so because I'm not like that into like AU stuff, I don't know, like modern day AUs are not my thing. Sorry, again, preference. So yeah, that goes in C because that's the only one of these that I'm kind of like, eh. Okay, the next one is Kanao and Aoi. They are adopted sisters. So this one, to me, personally, feels more ew than anything because I know like officially they're not adopted sisters. Like I don't think there was any like paperwork actually. But that being said, like they are very clearly adopted sisters because both Shinobu and Kanai like took them under their wing when they lost their families. I have to put this one in ew because while they are not like blood related, and I do say there are some relationships that the characters will sometimes be like, oh, I kind of look at them like my sibling, and people automatically brand it as ew. And I will say some of those like are not ew. Relationships can sometimes form out of like a friendship where you think you're like siblings and then realize later on in life that like, oh, okay, like that's not what it was. And especially because all these characters are so traumatized, like their relationship, their mindset is so out of whack. Like every single one of these characters needs therapy before they start thinking about romantic relationships, including Tanjiro and Kanao. So I have to put it in ew because to me, that's a little bit more like, what are we doing here, folks? Which brings us to our last ship. I like how there's nothing in S. And this one isn't going in S tier either. It is Kanao and Zenitsu. Kind of like Kanao and Inosuke, and I think I actually like this one less. They do not give me vibes of getting along. Okay, so first things first, we're putting this in the category of B with all the others that are just kind of like, it's just a ship because they're in the same age bracket. I feel like I like this one the least of those three because Zenitsu is too, again, opposite of Kanao. And he doesn't have like, I'm not saying that he's not a sensitive kid and that he's not a kind kid because he is. And I feel like so many times when I talk about Zenitsu, I need to just put my foot in my mouth because I make it seem like I don't like him. I love him. I don't like him as much as a lot of the other Kamaboko squad. That's just my personal preference. Like, there's some of us that just don't like him as much, okay? I feel like the fandom either loves him or hates him. So when I say I don't absolutely love and adore him, he's my favorite character, people automatically assume that means I hate him. No, that's not the case. Zenitsu, I have issues with his character. That's all I'm gonna say right now. So I don't ship him with Kanao because to me that's like overwhelmingly loud. Starts out in the story not even being able to really think for herself. And Zenitsu would be very overwhelming to her, and I don't feel like we see a whole lot of interaction between the two of them like at all until the end, if I'm remembering correctly. So that's just the main reason. It's just not my cup of tea. I think they're just a bit too opposite, and Zenitsu would be too overwhelming because of his personality. So I have to put it in B because it's just not really my thing. So there's our Kanao ships because that's all we had. I think this is good. It's interesting that there's nothing in S. I yapped for a lot longer than I expected because I've been recording for 30 minutes already, and I thought this was going to be kind of quick video because there weren't many Kanao ships to talk about, but then I was like, I'm gonna yap more. And we all know what happens when I yap. Someone called me out in my last Demon Slayer video where I said, okay, I think I'm gonna end the video here, which I meant the watching the videos, I just didn't word it right. And then I yapped for 10 more minutes, and someone called me out on that. They were like, quote, okay, I think I'm gonna end the video here. Proceeds to yap for 10 minutes. I was like, yep, that's my channel for you. A lot of people who are new to my channel watch that video because the video's gotten a lot of traction compared to most of my other Demon Slayer videos. So I feel like a lot of people don't know how things work here. So if you like videos where it's someone who cannot shut up, if you haven't figured it out already, that's me. No, this is not a channel where I have these like well thought out essay videos. I yap a lot, so. Anyway, anywho, I think that's gonna be it for today's video. I do want to do a video on like Zenitsu soon because I do really like a lot of his ships and I do really love him as a character. Again, I love Zenitsu, okay? It's just a preference thing, okay? But those are my ships for Kanao. Tanjiro and Kanao will always be my OTP of this show. It's the one I truly, genuinely care the most about. And then I think the reason why I struggle with putting anything that's not that in S tier is because I have so many thoughts and feelings on Tankana and so much love for it that it's hard to ship Kanao with anyone else. Tanjiro's a little bit different because I love Tanjiro so much. Like, he's my favorite character by a lot that it makes it a little bit easier to ship him with multiple people, but this will always be my OTP. So that is my ship list. Let me know your thoughts down below. Just keep it respectful as always. And that was gonna be it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment your thoughts. And also don't forget to join my memberships as I will be starting those polls for my next ship tier list. I'll be posting that probably within the next few days. So make sure you join the channel. That of course comes with a lot of other fun perks like early release of videos, members only live streams, and priority replying comments, all that fun stuff. So if you're interested, hit that join button. But thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you all in the next one. Mata ne!